Thanks, Ken, for the introduction, and thanks to the Atlantic Salmon Trust for the opportunity to present some information that we have in Marine Scotland at the conference today. So this presentation will focus on the situation in Scotland and give a bit of a brief summary in terms of the reports we've received of red skin disease, both from or directly to the Marine Scotland Science Group, but also reports that have been sent to Fisheries Management Scotland. We'll talk a little bit about the cases we've investigated and give a summary of the diagnostic findings of those. Mention some of our ongoing and historical collaboration that we've been involved in, and maybe pose one or two questions, unanswered questions, challenges for looking at this work and ways to go forward. But just before I get into red skin, I thought it's maybe worth emphasising that Marine Scotland's role as a competent authority in terms of aquatic animal health within Scotland. So this is focused upon delivering the implementation of our official control measures, and it's a combination of operational activity, laboratory function and policy input too. So our Fish Health Inspectorate will undertake a programme of surveillance and diagnostic sampling, implement statutory control measures, disease measures, and all the samples that we take are analysed by our laboratory function, which serves as a national reference laboratory for Scotland. And this is all backed up by our policy colleagues who set policy objectives, engage with stakeholders and provide ministerial support. So in terms of the surveillance we do, most of that is targeted at fish farm sites, shellfish farm sites, where there's a targeted risk-based surveillance programme, which is aimed at detecting the risk of contracting and spreading disease. And this is backed up by a passive surveillance initiative. So we'll receive reports of mortalities, notifications of suspicion of disease, etc., and there'll be triggers to help with investigations. From the perspective of the wild fish populations, surveillance is purely passive in nature, so we're really relying upon people to contact us with regards to the situations they see in rivers and wild fish, mortality events, suspicions of disease. So collaboration and communication is really key from that perspective, and that we're able to investigate issues and conduct diagnostic investigations. So all of this work helps to protect the health status of Scotland and the wider GB health zone, and it's important in terms of facilitating the safe trade in live aquaculture animals. So we've seen this slide before on Charlotte's presentation. So for any pathogenic disease, we need three things. We need a pathogen, obviously that's causing the issue, a host that's susceptible to that pathogen and susceptible to disease, and the right environmental conditions to allow that disease to manifest. So we're still unclear as to whether or not red skin is caused by a pathogenic agent. We've some discoveries from Charlotte earlier on, or further lines of investigation to help with work going forward. So within Scotland, these are typically some of the images that we've seen that have been either seen by fish health inspectors or reported to us, along with the reports that we receive. So we can get widespread hemorrhaging of varying severity and extent across the ventral surface of the fish, sometimes associated with red vent syndrome in one or two animals, and often with the evidence of fungal infection, as mentioned earlier before. And that can actually make it really difficult from a histopatological perspective to try and work out what's going on in the fish. And I think we got that messages coming through this morning that it's really quite a confused picture that we have. So our first reports in Scotland came in around about 2019, where there were reports of increased skin damage on adult fish returning from the sea, hemorrhaging, inflamed vents, fungal infections. There was no obvious cause or reason behind that. But from that point on, we've kind of mapped the notifications that we've received on a year-by-year basis. So in 2019, we had a total of 32 notifications. They're mainly related to single-figure reports of red skin disease, but came across 23 river systems and quite widespread throughout Scotland. The following year, 2020, there's an increase in notifications, but that's kind of complicated because the Fisheries Management Scotland app was introduced, and some of the notifications from that involve single-figure notifications, as opposed to before I would get a notification involving multiple fish. So yeah, 105 notifications from 16 rivers in 2020, and 35 notifications in 2021 from 10 rivers. So again, mainly single fish notifications, but we have had notifications of increased mortalities on some of the river systems that have been mentioned this morning, the Berrydale, the Force, and we've gone along to try and take fish to do investigations in terms of any pathogens there. At the moment, we're still looking at the 2022 data. We are getting notifications coming in. I need to assess them in terms of how they actually relate to red skin disease, because it's quite difficult with some of the information that actually comes in to determine whether or not red skin is actually present and what significance it's having, because quite often there's multiple factors going on in the fish. So combining all of that data together, since 2019 we've had reports from across 32 river systems, and we've had multiple reports on a year-by-year basis in some rivers, so it seems to be being picked up yearly in some river systems. And then the timing of reports, typically we seem to receive these in June, July time, perhaps coincide with lower water levels, higher water temperatures, conditions that exacerbates the stress in fish, but also allow it easier identification of animals in the water system. But there's some caution over the data that I've reported. So a lot of it is third-party notifications where we haven't been able to verify the presence of red skin or the exact cause behind what's been reported. I mentioned there was changes to the notification process, so that makes it difficult really to compare on a year-by-year basis in terms of notifications. And I expect there to be some errors in terms of my interpretation of the notifications I've done in the numbers, but I think it'd be more likely that the location data that's provided is kind of more accurate in terms of the places where red skin disease has been reported and detected. So I think one of the key things is maybe to improve the quality of reporting, and the Environment Agency, along with other stakeholders and ourselves fed into this, produced this severity field guide to help guide people in terms of red skin disease, in terms of the severity and the extent, and to classify fish in terms of a normal appearance, mild, moderate or severe red skin-like infections. So hopefully this will help to standardise the reporting we receive and the information that's coming in, and maybe allow for the provision of better data so we can get a better handle on actually what's happening. I've already mentioned the Fisheries Management Scotland app, so that's again increasing the opportunity to report information, not just on red skin disease, but we heard yesterday on pink salmon and on other disease conditions too. So that's a really beneficial tool. And Marine Scotland's Fish Health Inspectorate will feed into that. We'll extract information from it, so it will help to feed into our passive surveillance initiative. So it will help in terms of the response that we can give, and with a plan to be more joined up with Fisheries Management Scotland in terms of discussing that data and assessing where we can go next with it. So in terms of our sampling and laboratory testing, we've looked at probably about 20 cases across the 3 years, which is not a significant number, but obviously we've been impacted by events of 2020 and beyond. And we've generally conducted, the general diagnostic screen that we do, so general histopathology, bacterial culture, qPCR testing, so molecular genetic tests for specific pathogens that we know exist, and our virus cell culture. And in short, we've not found, like others, we've not found any clear evidence in terms of what could be causing the red skin issue. Certainly from a pathological perspective, the muscle tissue seems to be in okay or good condition in terms of what the samples we've looked at. Found some mixed bacterial growth, sapropagnosia, general parasites have been picked up, but nothing there that's significant or suggesting a cause or a contributing factor to the issue. So we were involved in the 2019 workshop, which I think my colleague Ian Munro attended, and that was beneficial, I think, to share knowledge on this subject. We'll be keen to be involved in other workshops too. We've collaborated with the Environment Agency with regards to the severity report, severity guide, and we've also shared information and samples with CFAS in terms of additional diagnosis and disease investigation. We also shared some material, I think, early on in 2019 with Norwegian colleagues to look at some of the samples more closely and other techniques. But as of yet, we still don't have a clear causative agent. So challenges and further work. I think obtaining suitable material to sample is always a challenge for ourselves, Fish Health Inspectorate. We clearly need to have samples of fish that are in good condition, quite fresh. So the physical aspect of actually getting to those and removing fresh fish from a river system can be a challenge. There's a big question, I think, and that's come out in some of the early discussions, is what's been reported. Are we seeing the same thing? Or is there potential here for multiple conditions, multiple issues causing similar conditions? We've mentioned the unknown etiology. And I think it's worth mentioning, because people have mentioned previously that we've seen this before. These types of conditions, these types of clinical signs have been seen before in fish, but in 2019, obviously, there was a big increase, a big rise. So could there be some benefit in looking at some point some historical data on that and any samples that are in storage for that? And then improving the reporting system, we've mentioned the two aspects of the app and the severity guide that can help with that. And we'd be keen to take part in any further diagnostic collaboration. I think working together on this is kind of key to pool the resources that we've got and share the knowledge. So in summary, in Scotland, red skin's been reported from late May until September. It's pretty widespread across the Scottish system, the number of rivers affected. I've emphasised the caution in terms of some of the data I've presented. So it's always to bear that in mind, but we've done a very broad health screen and not found any obvious cause or potential pathogen. And we've spoken about the reporting system improvements, and hopefully that these will be beneficial going forward, not just for red skin disease, but for other issues in wild Atlantic salmon too. It just leaves me to thank some colleagues, Brian Davidson for the provision of some of the data concerning the notifications that they've received, and my colleagues Sylvia Suarez, Dave Tomlinson and Amanda Walker at the Marine Lab, who've helped to provide some of the information for this presentation. So thanks. If you have any questions, I can do my best to try and answer.